Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. It's a pleasure to be with you on this Conspiracy Theory Thursday night. And if you want one of my favorite long-standing conspiracies that I truly believe in, I know mine are kind of boring, but it's the theory that the only entity that is benefited if you divide the American people by race, by gender, by nationality, by faith, by age, or any other criterion, the politicians win and the citizens lose. At least that's the way I look at it. Whereas, if we say we're all Americans and we're all different, and I'm going to vote for the person I think is the best person to hold that office, no matter what their skin color is, no matter what their age is, no matter what their nationality is, or where they go to church, or if they go to church. That would be the best way to make decisions. But identity politics benefits the politicians, does not benefit the citizens. I know Mike Gonzalez knows that. He's a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation and the author of a brand new book, The Plot to Change America, How Identity Politics is Dividing the Land of the Free. Mike, welcome back.
Lars, thank you very much for having me on. It's always great to sit down and talk to you.
Why are the thank you for that, but why are the purveyors of identity politics, why have they been so at least relatively successful? I mean, I don't even know if it's a majority of Americans who see themselves first based on their individual characteristics and whether or not they fit into a group. But even if it's not, even if it's just a sizable minority of those people who say, I vote because I'm female, I vote because I'm black, that's a dangerous thing for citizens and for freedoms, and it's a good thing for the politicians who will make full use of it. Why has that been so relatively successful?
Well, it's growing, and it's a concern. The way I look at it is, it is two things, right? First, you have, as you said, the division of the country into identities based on things that are immutable. Race, ethnicity, sex, sexual orientation, gender, even disability status, Lars.
Yep.
But then what that does is that under this regime, membership in those groups confers in you a claim to victimhood status, and then you use this victimhood status to say, well, because I'm a victim, I can claim your respect or your attention. I can claim rewards. I can claim compensatory justice. And what that does is then it gives a powerful disincentive to whoever sees being a victim. And this puts the country. This is not a good way to run a railroad, let alone a country, because what you want to have is what we used to have before, is you derive your sense of dignity and pride and claim to other people's affections from your ability to overcome challenges. Life is always going to throw challenges at you. But the fact that you have figured out how to overcome this challenge individually, identity politics does the opposite. And what I want to do with my book, The Plot to Change America, is to shed light on why this was done, who did it, why they did it, and how we can start undoing it. I actually think it's a big threat to the American Republic, and it's very timely. My book is selling well because it is very timely. I'm very happy that my ideas are getting out. I'm not happy about why it's timely.
No, and I would share that feeling if I had been the author of that book, because, Mike, at one point, identity politics was not passive, but at least it was collegial, not collegial. It was something other than what it is today. Today, I describe it as antagonistic, and that is, I have black friends, I have gay friends, I have other friends in different, those groups, but they don't see themselves as victims, but they do say that they get a tremendous amount of really tough heat from other people who share that same group with them, who say, well, if you are, and for instance, I know a gay individual who gets verbally beaten up by his friends because he's a Donald Trump supporter, and you say, well, don't they just accept that you can vote for whoever you think is the best candidate? He says, no. They tell me because I'm gay, I have to vote for this person, which begins to make people feel as though if I want to vote for the best candidate, the candidate I choose, and I break from that group that I've been sectioned off into by the politicians, I'm going to face maybe even a cold shoulder from people that you consider your friends, which I guess makes you question who your friends are. But, this has become antagonistic to the point where people will demand of somebody who's black, why aren't you voting for Biden? Biden is for black people, and black people should be for Biden. And you say, because I'm not defined by my race. That's going to be a tough position for some people, maybe not you and me, but for some people to take.
The antagonism, Lars, comes from the grievance part, the fact that they have been filled with grievances. And this is where the plot part comes in. There are no Thursday night meetings in the basement in Brooklyn or Cambridge, Massachusetts. What it is an attempt by a small leftist cadre to say, we're going to use these positions to drive out the narrative of the country, to introduce a new narrative, and to then have people filled with these grievances help us change the country. And that is the problematic part, because you're seeing all these grievances bear fruit now in the summer of 2020, which has not been a good summer. So that is and by the way, with identity politics, I don't mean everybody. Americans always come from somewhere, right? Their grandmother came from Italy. I derive pleasure from my Cuban-American ancestry. I smoke a cigar now and then. My son makes me an espresso. I imagine you must be Swedish or Norwegian.
On one side. So Swedish. Right. Spelled O-N the way God intended. So. so you may, and it's fine for you to think fondly of these ideas. This is not what identity politics is. Identity politics is a bunch of people really mad at the system and thinking they're victimized. What I do in my book, The Plot to Change America, is to say, look, America's democracy has been changing always. When your ancestors came in from Sweden, there was a huge Scandinavian immigration in the middle of the 19th century. Many people didn't like that. Many people were very anti-German. There were anti-German riots in the Midwest in the 1800s. Some 17,000 people were charged with speaking German in public because it was illegal to speak German in public. The Scots-Irish had it really, really, really bad when they started coming in the 1700s. So, yeah, immigration is always hard, but there's always this idea. Don Quincy wrote a letter to a German who wanted to immigrate here and said, we will consider you as another immigrant, but we will not grant you any privileges. And there's this new idea that, no, you come in, you're a victim. We're going to tell you how you're a victim. We're going to tell you how America has wronged you, and then we're going to give you benefits on top of that. That has been a very bad cocktail. No, it has. And in fact, some of the histories I've read, Mike, have said there were signs in store windows saying Irish need not apply. So you can find people who could have been victims of any kind of discrimination, nationality or whatever. But this is just, it's crazy because it's splitting America up to the point where people feel as though they have to be forced into a group simply because of who they are. I would think that Americans would reject that notion, saying, you're not going to tell me who I'm going to vote for because you've decided I'm black, so I have to be a Democrat and I have to vote for Biden. Nor if President Trump had said something along the lines, when Joe Biden told a radio interviewer just a few months ago, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Can you imagine what the mainstream media would have done if Donald Trump had said, if you don't vote for me, you're not white?
Look, the mainstream media, I'm a former journalist, as you know. I spent 20 years as a journalist living overseas everywhere. I am very disappointed by the way the mainstream media has behaved in the last 3 years. I'm just going to leave it at that. There's always been, journalists have always been on the left, but this has been really on steroids. Now, going back to the reason I am bringing these things to light, and I do want your journalists as well. I do want journalists like you to give me the airtime to let me explain this. Is because Americans don't know that this has happened. The average American, like members of my family in Miami, New York, or Arizona, they just go to work. They have two jobs. They coach Little League. They don't watch CNN. They're not sitting there watching CNN or MSNBC all day long.
Thank God. The book is called The Plot to Change America, How Identity Politics is Dividing the Land of the Free. Its author is Mike Gonzalez at Heritage, and you're listening to The Lars Larson Show. Coming